Okay, this is the moment of truth when we do any kind of dyeing and woo! G'day avocado enthusiasts and welcome to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. Today, we're not going to be doing any growing of avocado trees. No, avocados are great for eating. The seeds are great for growing into small and then big trees, and you can also use their skins for something. Let's get to it. So yes, today we are going to be using avocado skins to help us dye fabric. So avocados, seeds and skin contain tannins and other chemicals. Tannins are found in all sorts of plants, especially woody structures, and they're used for all sorts of things. We can make guesses about what they are. Likely it's to ward off insects from eating certain parts of it, but we can use tannins to dye natural fibers. So I'm going to be doing that today. So first, we actually need to create the dye. So I actually did this last night. So let's take a look at what I did to do that. I started with the skin from just 3 avocados. I had removed all the flesh I could before storing them in the fridge until I was ready. I added the skins to a large pot of cold water which was straight out of the tap. I needed to make sure that the pot was big enough that I could fit all the fabric in later. I then lit the stove and over a medium heat slowly brought the pot to a gentle simmer. We don't want to cook the skins as that may encourage a more brown colour, but it does need to be hot. Some people suggest only bringing it to about 80 degrees Celsius, but I've not had any real troubles with water approaching 100 degrees Celsius. As the water slowly warmed, I stirred the skins every few minutes. Once it hit a gentle simmer, I kept it over a low heat for about an hour. At the end of this time, the water had gone this lovely dark pink, almost red colour. After the hour, I turned off the heat, put on the lid and left it overnight to steep to bring out that colour a bit more. Okay, so I've got the dye bath here. It's in a beautiful big pot. It is ready to go. Giving it, more than 12 hours has meant that it's got a really beautiful deep pink color. It has done the job. I'm leaving the skins in there because they'll still release a little bit of tannins. They're mostly done now, but that's not going to be a problem to leave them in there a little bit longer. I'll strain them out later. Next, we need to get the things that we're going to be dyeing, and light colors like white or undyed are best for this, and it needs to be a natural fiber. This isn't going to work on synthetic materials, so we can't use things like polyester or nylon, but cotton, wool and other natural fibers are great. So I've got a couple of things here which are made of 100% cotton, so this will work beautiful, and they are white. So first I've got this t-shirt which is currently a white color, which will not be in a few hours, and I've also got this tote bag, which I'm going to be doing something slightly different with, still going in the bath, but I'm going to be trying something a little bit different with that one. Before I add these to the dye bath, I need to prepare them. Now, avocado tannins contain already a mordant. A mordant is something which helps to bind color to a fabric. Avocados already naturally have some in it. You can use an additional mordant. You can just Google that to find that out. I'm not going to do it here today. I'm just going to pop these in. But first I am going to prepare them. I'm going to give them a very quick wash and a soak to warm them up, open up the fibers, and to get rid of any residue that might be on them. These are both brand new, so I'm not sure what has happened in the manufacturing or shipping process. I'm just going to double check by giving them a quick hand wash, and then I'll give them a good rinse and I'll add them to the dye bath. So let's get to it. I'm just going to use my kitchen sink here and just some washing powder. So I'm just going to add a dash of washing powder, and I'm going to add both of the garments. I'm using hot water. It's more effective with hot water, so I'm just going to throw it in there like that. And then I'll bring the tote and do the same. Now that I am satisfied that they are clean, I'm going to give them a good rinse to make sure that there's no leftover soap. Not a huge deal if there's a little bit. Okay, so my t-shirt is ready. I don't need to dry this. It needs to be a bit damp. It doesn't need to be super wet. It's about to go in there though, so it doesn't really matter. And I've also got my bag ready to go as well, but not quite. I want a fairly uniform, maybe a little bit of an organic swirly, almost color in the t-shirt. I'm not going to do anything else to try and achieve that though. But for the bag, I'm going to get a bit more of a pattern design kind of thing. There's lots of different ways you can do this, like tie dyeing. I am going to get some hair ties, I'm going to swirl it around, strap it together, and then pop it in the bath. So let's do that. So I'm just gonna twist it around itself. It's not a massive thing, but as it takes longer for the dye to penetrate certain parts, that should give us, I reckon, some kind of swirling pattern. We'll see how it goes anyway. And I'm just going to secure it together with some hair ties so that it stays in that fairly tight swirl. Okay, so I've got my bag, I've got my t-shirt, and we're ready to add these to the dye bath. So I'm just gonna come over here to the stove. It's not on the heat. It has been steeping overnight. It's now about room temperature, which isn't a problem. And I'm going to just place them into the dye. And I don't want to scrunch this one up too much. It is gonna go in there. Make sure it's all submerged using my wooden spoon. And now we wait until we're ready and we're happy with the color. And now I wait. The longer I wait, the more vibrant the color is going to be. You need to wait at least an hour for the tannins to start setting in. So you can take it out after an hour, or you can wait really as long as you want. So I'm going to be checking back periodically to see how the color is setting, and I might even leave it until tomorrow. We'll see how we go. It's also important to remember that when it is wet, and especially when it's in the dye bath, it's going to appear darker and more vibrant than when we rinse it all off. So I'm gonna set it, I'm just gonna even leave the lid on, and we'll come back in a while to check in on how it is going. Then every so often, every hour or so, I would stir the whole pot, making sure that any of the bits that were sticking up were then submerged underwater to try and get as even a coverage as I could. It's been pretty well a full day. It's been about 24 hours since I put the fabric, the t-shirt and the bag in the dye bath. So let's go and take a look and see what has happened. So I'm over here and I've been stirring this, as you saw, every few hours, not overnight, but that is looking pretty pink. Check that out. So I think we are ready to move on to our next phase. So I am going to relocate to the bench here, and we're going to rinse the dye out. So I'm going to rinse this out by hand now. I've got my kitchen sink, it's clean, and I'm going to take each of these items and rinse them until the water that comes out of them is clear. So let's start with, well, we'll start with the bigger one, the t-shirt, and I'll squeeze to get as much as I can out. And it's important to remember that when you first pull that out of the dye bath, it's going to be a bit more vibrant or even a bit darker than what it'll be dry. So that's something to think about when you're considering the kind of color that you want as an end result. So it's looking, pretty good, but it's not going to be this dark when it is dry. So I'm going to rinse it out. So I'm just going to run it under a cold tap and wait till the water that comes out is totally clear. So the color at the moment is only gently pink, but it is still pink. So I want to get it as free of excess dye, excess pigment, excess tannins, as I can, so it doesn't turn anything else pink, doesn't turn me pink. And turn it inside out as well to get both sides. And that is running clear. So I'm going to set this one aside. We'll hang it out to dry in just a moment, but before I do that, I need to do the tote bag, which I have done in a slightly different technique. So the color, now I'll get a better idea of it once it's fully dry, but the color on the shirt, which I just put in loose, I didn't tie it up or anything, is looking reasonably uniform. I think that we'll probably have a few kind of organic lines through it, a few patches that are a little darker, a little lighter, and I think that'll be really nice. But for the bag, because I've twisted it and then tied it, I am thinking that it's going to be a little bit different. So let's take these hair ties off and we'll see how it went. Okay, this is the moment of truth when we do any kind of dyeing, and ooh, you can still see there's definitely some white bits still in there, but that has come out really lovely. So I'm gonna rinse it and then we'll dry it. It'll be much easier to see what it looks like as a final product once it is dry, but I am pretty happy with how that's come out so far. Check that out. That's nice. Okay, so let's rinse it and then we'll be good to hang it up to dry. Okay, so both of these are rinsed. I'm gonna squeeze them to try and get rid of as much moisture, as much water as I can, and then I'm going to hang them out to dry. All right, let's hang them out.
Are you ready for the big reveal?
And there we have it. Over the last few days, I have turned some avocado skins, some water, and some white cotton into, well, this pink shirt that you're seeing here, and this cloth tote bag. I'm thinking that I probably was a little bit too tight with my scrunching, with my twisting, and that has meant that there's a lot more white on here than pink. I probably want it the other way, but you can still see that there's a bit of almost a swirl pattern on that one. But the uniformity of the t-shirt, I think, is fantastic. Now, there's lots of different things we could do. You could do tie dyeing using this method. You could try all sorts of things. Now that I have dyed some things, this lovely avocado pink, I need to take care of it. Natural dyes will generally fade faster. Now, it's stained, it has dyed it. It's not going to get back to its white, but I can ensure that it stays as vivid as it is now by hand washing in cold water and line drying. That's going to protect the color. You can certainly wash it. I'll probably end up washing it on gentle mode on the washing machine, and there's a good chance that I'll tumble dry it as well, but that's how it goes. This color's not going anywhere too quickly, but you can reduce its fade by washing in cold water and by hand. Now, you might notice that I didn't talk about too many specific measurements today, and before I get comments asking for them, it actually isn't really worth me providing them for you. I used the skin of just 3 avocados to get this. If you wanted more vivid colors, I'm sure you could use more and you would get more vivid colors because there'd be more tannins in the water. But in saying that, no 2 avocados are the same, and they're gonna have slightly different qualities, their skins, when it comes to dyeing. So if I were to do this again with 3 avocados, I probably wouldn't get this exact same pink, it might be slightly different. The water itself has an effect as well. I used a fair amount of water. If I used less, I'm sure I would have got slightly more vibrant here because it would be a higher concentration of the dye, but I'm really happy with the color that I got. But it's not just the quantity of water that might change, it's also the pH. More alkaline or basic water, I've heard, can give you a more vivid color. The same with water that is harder. In some places, your tap water is going to contain more minerals than in other places dissolved into it. And I have heard, I haven't tried this myself because I've only got my tap water to use, that harder water can bring out the colors more as well. It helps to bind them better to the fabric. So if you try this, I would absolutely love to see it. I hope that today my tutorial for you has shown you how to use avocado skins, discarded, to create dyes, to dye and color natural fibers. So I use cotton today, but you can use wool, you can use linen, you can use any natural fiber and it will take the color. I would love to see what you get up to if you go and do this yourself. Feel free to use the hashtag ScottGrowsAnAvocadoTree or tag me on Instagram at ScottGrowsAnAvocadoTree so that I can see what you have been up to with your avocado dyes. Feel free to use small, squares or scraps of fabric before you go in and use a whole t-shirt just to test out what it's going to do. The dye can last a little while. I don't want to keep it for too long because the avocado skins will start spoiling and will spoil the dye, but you can have it sitting there for a few days and it will be okay. So experiment, try different things, and thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and you might be interested in what else we can do with avocados or indeed avocado trees, please, I invite you to subscribe to Scott Grows an Avocado Tree. While we're here, I also want to invite you to check out my other channel, That's Pretty Cool, where I talk about all sorts of things that inspire in me a sense of curiosity and wonder. Thank you once again for watching. Take care and we'll see you next time.
Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree. Scott grows an avocado tree.